So last week we got a trailer for the Dark Tower movie, and it was pretty damn awesome. But a lot of the reactions I saw online were that a bunch of people thought it looked cool, but they didn't have the time or the need to read the books, and that they were kind of confused about what it was all about. So I was like, hey, I've read the books, why don't I make a video explaining what it's all about, so that no one has to read 7 books, because who would want to be literate? So that's what this is. It's where you're at right now. Welcome! Anyway, I won't be going into any huge spoilers from the series. I'm just going to talk about some background information about the characters, the themes, and the plot of the series overall, so you know what to expect from the movie. So just in case you didn't know, The Dark Tower is a book series written by Stephen King. It took him over 20 years to write it, and it's almost his response to a long epic like Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter. It's got 7 main books, and he also wrote kind of an 8th spin-off book afterwards that takes place in between, I think, books 4 and 5, but the main plot happens in those original 7 books. The main character of the series is Roland Deschain, who in the movie is played by Idris Elba. And Roland's whole character is based on the character played by Clint Eastwood in the Man with No Name trilogy of westerns from the 60s. He's quiet, he doesn't show emotion, and he's really great at using his giant pistol to make YouTube trick shot compilations. And that's because he's a gunslinger, and on his world gunslingers are a bit like the Jedi, except instead of awesome lightsabers, they have huge guns. They wander from place to place, solving problems, and when they meet a bad guy, they explode his face. But, just like Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, Roland is now the last gunslinger. He's on a quest to find the Dark Tower, and once he does get there, he can save the entire multiverse. Because that's what the Dark Tower is. It's essentially the center of the whole multiverse, and it's failing. There's something wrong with it, and it's breaking down, and Roland's world is already well on its way to dying, as you can clearly see from the trailer. And the only way for him to save it is to reach the tower. But being a part of the multiverse means the books got to have a lot of fun jumping between worlds. The trailer shows Roland's world and our Earth, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. The book series connects with a whole bunch of Stephen King's other novels, like Salem's Lot and The Stand. In fact, the main villain of The Dark Tower is one of the villains from The Stand. You may know him as Randall Flagg, but to Roland, he's the Man in Black. And to Hollywood, he's alright, alright, alright. And those connections to Stephen King's other books is probably why the trailer snuck in a reference to Pennywise from It. But the Dark Tower book series also has connections to other universes and worlds, and those include The Wizard of Oz, The Legend of King Arthur, and even Harry Potter. All in all, as the series kept going, each book started including more and more dimension hopping and more wacky weird shit, and I'm sure we can expect the same from the movies. That dimension hopping is where the character of Jake comes from. Jake is just a regular kid in our world, but he keeps having these visions of other places and times, and those visions almost always inevitably lead him to Roland. And how Roland treats Jake always shows where Roland is at as a character. Several times during the books, Roland has to choose between pursuing a lead towards a Dark Tower or protecting Jake, and he doesn't always make the good choice. But then, how are there multiple versions of Jake running around? Well, the reason is that the Dark Tower isn't just the center of the multiverse, it also controls time. The book series has a huge focus on the past, whether it's Roland's mysterious backstory, or other characters wishing they'd done things differently, or even direct time travel. The story almost revolves around the concept that time is circular. And here's the kicker. That's why these movies are actually a sequel to the book series and not a direct adaptation. But just because it's a sequel doesn't mean you need to read the books. Without going into details, time has come full circle, and the characters have reset. They've gone through all of this before, but now they're slightly different than they used to be, and something very pivotal has changed. Roland now has something that he didn't have before, and that could make all the difference when it comes to this movie series. The cycle of Roland's journey to the Dark Tower has started again, and this time, things just might end differently. So to sum it all up, you can expect a lot of awesome action with a whole bunch of guns, you can expect dimension hopping, you can expect time travel, and even a whole bunch of other crazy shit. I adored the Dark Tower books, and I'm so glad to see that we're getting a continuation of Roland's story. So the Dark Tower's connection to Harry Potter is pretty awesome, and it's not really a huge plot spoiler because it doesn't have anything to do with the story, but if you absolutely don't want any spoilers, cut away now. So you remember those snitches from Harry Potter? You know, the golden balls they have in Quidditch that if you catch you win the game? Well, in The Dark Tower, the villains use them as heat-seeking grenades. I'm not kidding. In, I think, the 6th or 7th book, there are bad guys who are robots who launch snitches at our main characters, and if they get to them, they explode into a whole bunch of shrapnel. I don't know if it's the most awesome Harry Potter reference of all time, but it's pretty damn cool.